Vanilla, Red Summers. The president still acting unpresidential. Bitch, I'm in the Bronx with the evil in my residential. It was all emojis, it was never mental. The silver spoon is under fire, and the pressure vented. The times that we living in unprecedented. We went from doing Dougie, fresh and vintage. Now the rhymes, they all pessimistic. They hashtagging black girl magic, just finesse the mystics. They impressed with quick chicks, only savages with sadistic. They being less specific, no metaphysics. So many butter biscuit, they need extra biscuit.
How, Sway? Take a few steps back.
You ain't got the answers, man. You ain't got the answers.
Yeah, we back. You know what I'm talking about? I don't even want to talk about it. You know what it is. They said stop playing our shit. You know what I mean? We come in to tap pockets. So we I ain't playing with no copyrighted material tonight. Yeah, that's what the Zooms are for. Y'all can find me off grid, off of these people's platforms. You know what I mean? When we do pirate shit like that. So we're not even gonna play with YouTube right now. Let's get back into the lesson. You feel me? Let's get back into the lesson. Yeah, leave this Becky alone. So let's continue the conversation where we left off. It was being reported that, you know, them people over there, when I say Facebook, I'm talking Instagram, WhatsApp, right? Oculus, for all of my VR people in virtual reality, Oculus Rift, that's them as well. And you have to keep in mind, because we might have been watching propaganda just now, right? Conversation
To this day.
That's what they do. They put out these stories in the New York Times, and in 60 minutes, like, these platforms are the upper echelon of propaganda campaigns, right? PSYOPs. So we are aware of the fact that Facebook's ultimate aim, along with the other oligarchs, especially those inside of the collective known as FANG, right? Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, Google, and a few other people. You know, we know that their ultimate game and their aim, Apple, and their aim is what is called surveillance surplus, right? The surveillance economy, right? They're about data collection. They're about censorship. And they're about other means to basically make trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars. Okay? So when the mental health of the people are being subjected to it, you know, you got to keep in mind, and I've said this on many occasions, that there's something called altruism. And there's a famous author amongst Europeans named Ayn Rand who wrote a book called Atlas Shrugged. And a lot of these people, not of European descent only, of many other nationalities, you know, this is taught in universities and other places of Romanistic indoctrination. But these people are really, you know, they are groomed to be the elites. And when you see the elites, just like if anybody saw the movie or the series Squid Game, right? Or if you saw Hunger Games, or if you saw Get Out, or if you saw, what's the other one? Get Out, Hunger Games, right? All of these movies about the elite, Purge. Us. These movies give you a glimpse about the mind state of what we would what we would call, or what we would identify as, the elites. For those of us who identify as early termed conspiracy theorists, that's how most of us started out. The elites had names to them, right? The elites were part of 13 bloodlines. The elites, right, had names like Rothschild and other names to them, right? We were indoctrinated and introduced to the elites as vampiristic, bloodthirsty, you know, murderers and psychopaths and sociopaths. You know what I'm talking about? And then through popular culture, these people become idolized, lionized, right? To the point where we went as far to even elect one of those quote unquote elites as a president, right? So Facebook's algorithm is a sociopath, and Facebook management is too greedy to stop it. For years, Facebook has known that its algorithms encourage and amplify antisocial behavior like hate speech and extreme political bias to keep users engaged, according to company documents reported in the Wall Street Journal. Going back to what I was making a point a minute ago about the whistleblower who came forward on 60 Minutes. Now, one of the Hegelian dialects that's attached to the conversation that she's having is, ultimately a crunch down on Facebook, a regulation of Facebook, government being involved in social media, your data, and other means and whatnot. And in so many ways, it gives Facebook an opportunity to go into the next phase of their social media experience, which is to completely shift into the metaverse, right? By shifting into the metaverse, they could promise to alleviate some of the ills and some of the things that may have plagued Facebook in the past and whatnot. So I just definitely want to keep an eye on if any of these things that we're seeing that the media is showing us, if it's Hegelian, if it's something, if it's a psyop, if it's not real, because we always have to keep our you got to sleep with one eye open. You know what I'm talking about? I don't trust anything that the mainstream media puts out there unless it's vetted and it can be proven, right? But what we do know, because it's almost like as a whistleblower, she's already telling us shit that we do know. It's not like we're not hearing things that we don't know. What she's coming with, though, is receipts. But what we do know is Facebook is outdated. It's an app that, in my humble opinion, I hate people. I hate the messages that I receive on Facebook, because 8 times out of 10, it's some real goofy ass, lower vibration, completely out of the. I don't learn anything on Facebook anymore. You know what I mean? You be having family members inbox you like videos from that you might have saw 10 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Or they're sending you clowns that you be like, you're promoting this. So Facebook by themselves is a very horrible app. Okay. Instagram, on the other hand, has been a breakthrough app for a lot of individuals who wanted to get out of the quote unquote hamster wheel of working for somebody else, and they wanted to explore either their passions or their gifts and talents. Right. I saw more people turn into millionaires by utilizing the quote unquote tools of Instagram than I saw on YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, or any other one of those apps. So it has its ups, it has its pros and whatnot, it has its benefits. But what I do know and what I can say is I've seen so many of society become terraformed in these last few years based off of grown people utilizing apps that were designed and socially programmed and engineered and coded for actually teenagers, because all of these apps say in the app store that they're for teenagers. Okay? They're for teenagers. So a lot of our people are becoming dumbed down. You got grown ass people acting like fucking teenagers. Everybody is acting like they're in high school still. It's about your sneakers and your bag still. It's about your eyebrows and your fucking baby hair still. You know what I'm talking about? Everybody wants to match. It's about the cool lunch table. Ooh, this person with all of the followers. I want to be like them. The emulation. Motherfuckers flying to other countries to get their goddamn butt lifted and whatnot. So they could, you know what I mean? So they could emulate, or they could try to copy this person who they probably been stalking for months on the gram and shit like that. Like there's a lot of grown men who've been through a lot in life, subjected to, you know, trolls, subjected to admirers, subjected to stalkers and whatnot, following men on YouTube. You know what I mean? Making videos about men, having men on their mind all of the time. Being obsessed. There's niggas that are obsessed with other men. It's a lot of homoerotic behavior on the tube right now. It's grown men that are completely upset. I know obsession when I see it, my nigga. Not just when I smell it, Calvin Klein. I know when I see it. You got grown men completely obsessed with each other on the internet. Mad sus. Don't talk about nothing else but another man. So I've seen people's integrity and character diminish on social media specifically. They don't act like, I mean, the streets is messed up as it is, but the social media is a whole nother animal. So Facebook has been penalizing the truth seekers. Facebook has been penalizing people who have results. Facebook has been penalizing the quote unquote onboarding of proper consciousness by censoring the quote unquote the creators of the consciousness. Because if they push one person off of their path, right, then it has a profound effect on the multitudes. So if they shadow ban certain people who are coming with certain information, if they keep certain information only in a quote unquote echo chamber where a few people have access to it, but they push the buffoonery, they push the bum fights, they push the thottery, they push the drill culture, they push the drug culture, they push the thought culture, they push everything that's ignorant of a lower vibration and whatnot onto the quote unquote your stream and in front of the eyes of the people. Remember, you are what you eat. You are what you eat. They have experiments that they've done on Facebook where they know how to manipulate the quote unquote emotions of people through social media. Yeah, can you hear me now? We good? All right, we back. We back. Make sure y'all hit that Cash App. Make sure y'all hit the like button and whatnot. You feel me? Like I said, I put a lot of energy into my presentations. I could spend time cuddling with my newborn, with my baby, you know what I mean? With my little man. I could spend a lot of time just laid up as a papa. But I'm here doing this for the people. As you can see, you know, it has this hiccups, it has its obstacles, but we gonna do what we gotta do, man. Ain't nothing stopping this information. You feel me? So yeah, next slide. Facebook has always claimed that its mission is to bring people together, but a new report from the Wall Street Journal laid bare what many have suspected for some time. Its algorithms encourage and amplify harmful antisocial behavior for money. Here's what we learned from Jeff Horowitz and Deepa Sitaraman of the Journal. A 2016 internal Facebook report shows 64% of all extremist groups joined are due to our recommendation tools, right? So they recommending, oh, if you're a KKK, you might want to join these Nazis over here. Check out these guys over there in Norway. So they're bridge builders, right? They're connecting people, you feel me, and hiding their hand. They're putting people together. They're connecting the dots. They're helping individuals form Voltron. They're helping people get their numbers up. Meanwhile, they're blocking other individuals who look like us from getting our numbers up, from connecting and building with our groups, from crossing bridges and whatnot. That's what they're doing. Okay. So this has been going on for a while. This is 2016. Then you had a 2018 internal report found that Facebook's algorithms exploit the human brain's attraction to divisiveness and warned that if left unchecked, they will simply get nastier and nastier to attract more attention. Now, we find ourselves in a society where it didn't even take too much programming to turn the anti-Jabberwockies against the Jabberwockies against what they call the anti-Jabberwockies. It didn't even take that much time. It didn't take that much work. They put out a few reports, they dropped a few articles, and it was on and popping. It was on and popping. People who suffer from antisocial personality disorder, known in popular culture as sociopaths, engage in harmful, deceptive behavior without regard for social norms. Sometimes this is done with superficial charm. Other times it's done with violence and intimidation. These people never feel remorse for their behavior, nor do they consider its long-term consequences. This is how Facebook algorithms behave. It's how they hold on to users' attention and how ultimately the company makes money. This runs contrary to what the company has been telling us about itself. After the bad rap it developed in the wake of 2016 election, executives and the company's marketing machine were telling us that Facebook was both financially and culturally committed to encouraging pro-social behavior on the platform by doing things like removing violence and hate speech, making sure conspiracy theories and lies don't go viral, and cracking down on opiate sales. Facebook has claimed time and time again that it's politically neutral platform, but it's not. Facebook, its executives, and its algorithms are political. They make political decisions not based on their values, but rather based on the interests of the company's survival. According to the journal, early on in the company's effort to fight extreme and antisocial behavior on Facebook, it found that most bad behavior came from a small number of actors. It also found that they were more right-wing accounts engaging in this behavior than left-wing accounts, right? As a result, right? Peep the language too, y'all. They're creating this binary situation, this left and right, this red and blue, this Bloods and Crip, this Democrat Republic. You feel me? According to the journal, as a result, cutting down on bad behavior would hit right-wing Facebook harder. This made executives extremely uncomfortable. It didn't want to upset Republicans while President Trump was raging about the platform's bias against him and his party, so it did nothing, right? So these are some of the companies that are part of what is known as the surveillance economy, right? The surveillance capitalists. Isn't YouTube doing the same? Yes. That's why you see the G, right? This is not just a Facebook thing. This is going across what is known as big tech, okay? This is a big part of big tech right here, the FANG, okay? As you can see by the logos, you know who they are, all right? They're all in bed. They all profit off of the data or the surveillance, quote unquote, capitalism, the surveillance surplus, right? Products that their platforms and the products and the tools that they provide all collect data. Hold on a minute with the blood clot. Here we go. So, of course, you see the most current quote unquote ban that Google rolled out. I believe this was last week. They've been removing tons and tons of content channels, and they're targeting individuals, right? So they're being deplatformed across the platforms, across the spectrum, right? So when one of these quote unquote conglomerates deplatform you or tag you, right, the rest of them will also follow up and do their bidding to basically ban you off of these platforms. It's called deplatforming, okay? As you can see, we were targeted for censorship as well. You just saw that earlier in the quote unquote program, right? So today, right? Today on Monday, earlier today, we saw the quote unquote the systems of Facebook were down. The systems of Instagram were down. The system of WhatsApp, right? All of these apps, the communication apps that people depend on, that people are addicted to, that people have their businesses connected to, right? That people utilize to communicate. It all fell. It all went offline. People didn't know what to do with themselves, right? Keep in mind, even the data from that is for sale. Even the data from that you're able to monetize all of the data that ran to Twitter. All of that is going to be utilized. That's going to be sold, right? Everything that they're doing is quote unquote an experiment. Everything that they're doing is they're creating models out of these experiments. It doesn't matter what happens. January 6th, no problem. We collected all of the data for that. We got it for sale. George Floyd got killed. No problem. We got all of the data for that. We'll extend the data from Memorial Day 2020 leading all the way up to the day that quote unquote WAP came out. And we're going to show you how the day after the WAP came out, we have the information, we got the data, we got the numbers, and all of this shit that you need to show you the effect of just that simple song right there, right? Because these people are into what are known as studying patterns of behavior. These are neurologists that are at Facebook and other places. They are majors in human brain activity, right? So, of course, like I said, they have an excuse about why it went down. There's different there's three sides to the coin. I don't believe the official story that they threw out there. You know what I mean? In my humble opinion, I feel like they were cleaning up shop because they got exposed, and they don't want, they do not want to cough over or be subpoenaed and be forced to cough over anything that they may find detrimental and could result in their stocks even taking a deeper dive, right? Because they still have to answer to their shareholders. Okay. They still have to answer to Wall Street. there's some people out there who are taking advantage of the fact that Facebook stocks are down and they're going shopping today and whatnot. Okay, because they know that it's going to go back up and whatnot. They're going shopping. Okay. Yeah, she copied 10,000 pages and whatnot. So I think amongst those 10,000 pages, she may have had some smoking guns, and they may have had to get rid of it. Okay. Damn, I wanted to play this video for y'all, but these people is acting crazy, right? I'm gonna put the link for it when I get off of this. I'm gonna put the link for it, and I'll let you go and watch it on your own. It's about 50 minutes, right? It's a European woman called Shoshana. I think she's Israeli, but she's the one who came up with surveillance capitalism. She's the author of a book dealing with surveillance capitalism. When I say she goes in, fam, she goes in. I'm sure y'all know somebody. There's people out there that know about her because her videos go semi-viral, but she goes in. She has information. She's a Harvard professor. She digs in about social capitalism. Just the lexicon that she's using, the language is ill, right? So, like the lady was saying in the 60 Minutes interview, you know, she didn't say black girls, she said girls, period. Teenage girls are being affected negatively by Instagram to the point where it's so severe that the people inside Instagram know about it. They're fully aware of it, but you know, it's as if they might want to keep that shit going on. It may be, you know, they're seeing the minds or the values of young women become terraformed, right? Look, I'm not saying that it's only Instagram. You know, reality television plays their part, right? Just the internet in it of itself plays its part. But those girls that are out there, those sex workers, you know, those strippers that are out there, you know what I mean? And all of these other girls that do a lot of salacious things, lewd and what is it called? Lewd and what? What's the term? You know, they out there doing things like that. Out of those 3 million followers, a lot of them are young women. You know, a lot of them are young girls. The video vixens, the women with the perfect bodies, they got sculptured bodies and whatnot. There's a lot of women having body dysmorphia based off of them trying to keep up with the Kardashians. There's a lot of people comparing themselves to the social media influencers. There's a lot of people comparing themselves to reality stars. There's a lot of people comparing themselves to strippers and thoughts. There's a lot of people comparing themselves to Amber Rose. They are. There's a people weighing themselves against quote unquote video vixens and prostitutes and women of that nature. Lewd and lascivious. Lewd and lascivious. Lewd and lascivious. You know what I mean? Somebody said that that's been happening. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, that's been happening, but not on this scale. You been outside lately? What you talking about? It been happening. Niggas die every day, but there's a rise in killings right now. Niggas die every day, B. But where I'm from, that shit is up 300%. Yeah, they've been doing it, but when I came up, they was doing it on 42nd Street. It's called a strip. There wasn't too many people on that strip either. There was a certain amount of people on that strip. Now the strip is America. America became the strip. What you talking about? That shit is a career choice now. It wasn't like that before. The same way with people when I was coming up, everybody wasn't a drug dealer. Everybody wasn't selling crack. It was only a hand-picked few. Then all of a sudden, everybody's a crack dealer. If you listen to their music, everybody's there was only a handful of fucking kingpins. You listen now, all of a sudden, everybody's a kingpin. You know what I'm talking about? Inside the endless post-police brutality loop, right? At the start of the cycle, a black person is killed. A graphic with 3 steps about what to do following their death goes viral. People anoint a small group of organizations to donate to, and then it's revealed that there was some misinformation in that graphic, or that organization everyone donated to isn't what we demanded that it be. There's a knee-jerk reaction, a light analysis, and then the cycle starts all over as another black person is killed, bro, before we've been able to even analyze these issues with greater depth. There's a knee-jerk reaction, a light analysis, and then the cycle starts all over as another black person is killed before we even been able to analyze these issues in greater depth, collect ourselves, or think through the posting schedule we've brought into. In a culture where many of us are self-contained brands rather than ordinary users pursuing the internet, responding rapidly to trending topics, especially those that are heartbreaking and painful, now deploys a cross-platform strategy because we're either aware of our own brands, or, as is the case for social justice influencers who educate their followers about everything from misogyny to anti-blackness, or because we feel pressure to share the important graphics that all of our friends are sharing, we're then able to tap into a movement from our beds and couches. Though we're not on the ground organizing, it still feels as if we're participating in something bigger than ourselves. People like to share things. People like to share things. They'll share death before they share birth. They'll share death before they share life. They'll share you getting beat up, stomped out, knocked out, brutalized, and all kind of things, rumors, all kind of negativity before they share some shit about your accomplishments or a win that you received. That's what they'll do. People like to share things and feel like, well, I told you what to do and I've done the deed. Melissa Hines, a designer, told Bitch. One of the reasons that the graphics look the same is because the way we've approached this sort of advocacy work stayed the same. Even the act of telling someone 3 things they can do is a form of taking action. If a graphic designer makes a post about the death of a black person that I find valuable, I could share it to my Instagram story without offering additional thoughts or context. If somebody tweets a video of a black person being harassed by cops, I can instantly retweet it. If someone posts a list of black authored books to read to teach non-black people to be empathetic to black people, I can order the books. It's such a repetitive cycle that it almost feels like someone is pulling the strings and benefiting from the engagement. Please be a conscious consumer on Instagram. Writer and professor Eve Ewing explained in the July 24th graphic that she created. Graphics like this can be a helpful teaching tool, but some of the racial justice explainer posts that go viral grossly oversimplify complex ideas in harmful or misleading ways, or flat out misstate facts, are not attributed to any transparent person, people, or org who can be held accountable for errors, and draw on the works of scholars and activists who go uncredited. Right? Have you seen that? I've definitely seen that taking place. Black death. The continuous murder of black people by law enforcement is never ending. So as long as it continues to happen, we'll continue threading the same digital footsteps, and hoping that maybe this time it'll make a difference. The effects of racial trauma on mental health. Deaths captured on TV and media. Racial tension is once again at a critical tipping point in the U.S. Many people have asked, why now? Why was the death of George Floyd the catalyst for this natural reckoning on racial injustice? The truth is, the movement is over 500 years in the making. Only now, with the widespread use of videos captured on cell phones and posted on social media, has the awareness of injustices outside of those happening within our own neighborhoods become too prevalent to ignore. While this has allowed for a collective response and an awareness that these are not isolated events, it has served to re-traumatize people who witnessed the deaths of Black people at the hands of the police. This serves as fuel, hypervigilance, and mistrust of a system that vows to protect and serve. What is racial trauma? The number of instances to overt disenfranchisement towards the Black the number of instances of overt disenfranchisement towards the Black community are countless. During slavery, a psychiatric condition was developed to describe slaves who attempted to flee enslavement, which was referred to as drapetomia. Also, during slavery, Black men were considered to only be 3/5 of a man. Between 1932 and 72, the U.S. Public Health Services enrolled Black men into the Tuskegee syphilis experiment, which was disguised as providing treatment for Black men with syphilis. Instead, participants were prescribed vitamins or administered insufficient doses of medications that resulted in a number of unnecessary deaths. These instances, among many other atrocities, have resulted in significant ongoing trauma to Black people within our country. Despite being currently 5 to 6 generations removed from slavery, the trauma of enslavement was so severe that it implanted a psychological and social shock in the minds of Black people. Current generations still carry the scars mentally and socially. In addition to knowing that there is a history of Black people in America, the systemic racism that has remained in place since the end of slavery has resulted in ongoing racial traumas and injustices to Black people, such as racial profiling, voter suppression, and overrepresentation in the criminal justice system. Enduring constant prejudice, discrimination, and bias takes a toll on one's mental health. Recurring trauma through the media. These psychologically damaging experiences of ongoing systematic racism are further exasperated through the reoccurring videos and images of Black people dying at the hands of police officers, right? Keep in mind, these same videos that Facebook have helped to promote, the same videos that whenever they drop, they are all over your feed. They are inside of your echo chamber. They are conspicuously put there by Facebook. All right. You are continuously inundated with images of Black health that is destroying a lot of people's Black mental state, mental health, putting a lot of Black people, especially Black youth, in a very vengeful mind state, right? And they becoming and that is also invigorating them to become the killers that they're becoming. Okay, because at one point they feel somewhat powerless that they can't strike back at the man or the popo and whatnot. So what do they begin to do? They begin to turn their weapons on each other, right? What's produced from trauma porn, right? What's produced? Could we argue that thought culture is an offset of trauma porn? Could we argue that drill culture is a direct offset of trauma porn? Huh? Could we make that comparison? Could we draw that line? The number of lives lost just don't include Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Tamir Rice, Eric Gardner, Ahmaud Arbery, Atiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor, Elijah McClain, George Floyd. They include so many more. There's literally thousands after those names. Okay? There is a collective experience that is felt. It is every Black person realizing at any point in time the stories that have become all too familiar could be their story. It is realizing that people in the Black community are dying unnecessarily. Unfortunately, Black people have always lived with the fear and worry that at any point in time, either themselves or one of their family members could be the victim of a negative interaction with law enforcement. Recent events that have been highlighted in the news are not just isolated incidents, but rather a reflection of how this country has continued to undervalue the lives of Black people. As the struggle for equality continues, it is critically important for Black people to carefully consider the effect of these repeated images and videos on their mental health. For those who feel repeatedly triggered, it could be helpful to multiply exposure as much as possible by unfollowing accounts that post these videos and images or setting content blocks and limits on your phone. Additionally, reach out to family and friends if you feel overwhelmed and need to talk to somebody who you trust, who understands. And lastly, if your mental health is suffering, it is essential to consider seeking culturally competent mental health care. Now, there's one or two ways that you handle it, right? Either you go and do what that says, or you go and engage in more trauma porn, or you go and engage in more slave porn, or you go and engage with more porn, or you go and engage in more World Star, or you go and engage in more BMF series, or you go and engage in more Godfather Harlem, or you engage in more Squid Games. You could begin to become so desensitized that you like, you know what? I'm gonna just get into more drill music. I'm gonna just get into more trap music. I'm gonna get trapped in the trap music. I'm gonna go in the trap. I'm gonna go on that tour with Boozy and these niggas. You know what I mean? I'm gonna just immerse myself in this frequency and whatnot. I'm gonna immerse myself in this vibration. I'm gonna immerse myself in this lower frequency, and I'm gonna just be, I'm gonna just, ignorance is bliss. I'm gonna swim in this water. Okay, I'm gonna make a movie. I'm gonna body me a nigga. I'm gonna watch me some Rick and Morty. Editorial: how does a steady stream of images of Black death affect us? Right now, I'm building up something, yo. Y'all pay attention to what we're talking about, right? What does it do to Black people to constantly watch videos that are installments in a series with the recurring themes of Black death and injustice, right? Injustice. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It began with Trayvon Martin. I called it the Trayvon Martin factor, right? I peeped it early. I said, this is a ritual. This is a psyops. This is going to be a loop. It's going to continue. They're not putting George Zimmerman on trial necessarily. They're not putting Trayvon Martin on trial because he's not here anymore. They're putting his archetype. They're putting his image. They're putting what he represented as a Black young man in America, 18-year-old. They called it the Black Hood. He had on a gray hood. They kept saying the Black Hood, the Black Hood. He had on a gray hood. If you look at the pictures, he's wearing a gray hood. He didn't have on a black hood. The Black Hood that they're talking about is the hood that Mike Brown lived in, the hood that Freddie Gray lived in, the hood that Kamani Gray lived in. Rest in peace. Peace be upon all of them. The hood that so many innocent Black men and women, Sandra Bland, who became these hashtags, right? After the Trayvon Martin situation, they became a continuous loop. That continuous loop, we have to identify what's attached to that continuous loop. What was behind that loop, right? Were these names intentionally given to us? Were these stories cherry picked and put in front of us? You feel me? Did they pay quote unquote 24 and 48-hour media blocks for us to be saturated by these particular stories? Because remember, they're killing people every day. Look at the scroll that they have of 222 names of people killed in Minnesota by the Popo, right? This shit is nonstop. Scrolling through Instagram early Thursday morning after seeing a stream of photos of babies and beach scenes, I stumbled on a short video clip of a wounded Black man, Philando Castile, lying in the passenger seat of a car wearing a blood-soaked white t-shirt as an officer's gun pointed at him and his girlfriend Diamond Reynolds' camera phone rolled. Moments after Castile was shot by a police officer in Falcon Heights, Minnesota, Reynolds streamed the events live on Facebook. So far, 5.6 million people viewed the video of Castile leaning over moaning before he died. The officer yelling and Reynolds giving a step-by-step commentary as her young daughter sat in the back seat. The video was shared more than 317,000 times. What are you talking about? Remember, the video, the pictures that we saw of the lynchings that were taking place without sanctuary, they made those lynchings postcards. Those postcards were sent all around the world. Thank you, whoever's the people sending the cash apps. I appreciate you. Those postcards were sent all around the world. Those postcards brought other Europeans from Europe into America after they saw black people getting lynched and whatnot, after they saw the lynching photos. Those photos are in European families as quote unquote treasures. They're being traded on a black market as we speak, my niggas.
To this day. To this day.
They trading couches made with slaves' hair. They're trading lampshades made with slave skin, all that shit. So if 5.6 million people saw a man, right, dying, taking his last breath, something that you are not supposed to see, that is something that is sacred. This has been said that you're not supposed to see a baby unless you are immediate family. You're not supposed to be live streaming your child coming through your yoni birth, and you're not supposed to film someone taking their last breath. You're not supposed to see that. That's something sacred, right? And yeah, faces of death type of shit. But then when we're talking about a lynching, this was a lynching, right? So in this modern day of social media, we, by way of Facebook, right, who, if you put a video that they don't want nobody to see, they have a way of taking those videos down. We all know, because we've had videos that completely have vanished into nothingness. They Thanos snap videos that you'll never be able to see. It doesn't even matter if they go viral. They know how to take shit down. Somehow, some way, these videos never get taken down until they have their effect. After they have their effect and there's a new body and whatnot, they'll scrub the internet of the old bodies so you're not making the correlation. But you're witnessing a lynching, 5.6 million people. Imagine how that would look if you were standing next to a tree while they were barbecuing a black man or woman or child. Imagine what 5 million people standing there breathing, clapping, screaming, crying. Imagine what that will look like and sound like. Well, that's what you have with the case of this man right here, who people are watching die on social media. How is that affecting our psyche? Not even subtly. I'm talking about outright. Like, how is that affecting you? What is that doing to your mind state? And then you can't find any type of justice whatsoever for situations like this. When they let them people walk, you don't even read the story. You scroll right past it. You like, I can't even do this. This is so debilitating. Right? So they've been feeding you all of these images over the years, and then they come with a situation where, your immune system has to be at a certain type of strength in order for you to maintain up in this thing. Anybody with pre-existing conditions as a result of stress, as a result of diabetes, as a result of all kind of ailments and whatnot that you go through because of stress, and because of a failing heart and whatnot, and because you're witnessing all of this trauma, because of PTSD, because of bad eating habits. Bad eating habits is what you watch, is what you listen to, and is what you eat. Talk Black to me. Can I get an amen? Not to mention some of the best rappers that people, listen to, they're dying, overdoses, getting shot, or they're getting locked up. thrown under the bus. There's a lot of things going on in people, even in their quote unquote, in their celebrity world. The legends are dying. The old school legend, the new legends. Alton Sterling's body at close range as he was pinned to the ground with 2 officers on top of him. The video of the fatal shooting of the black man's was immediately and widely shared on social media and sparked outrage, protests, and renewed calls to end police brutality. As a trained journalist and media scholar, I believe it is important for these incidents of state violence to be documented and seen by the public. This brutality should not be hidden, particularly in a nation with a history of anti-black state violence. Social media and mobile technology put power in the people's hands to reveal it. The clip I saw on Instagram of Castile was gruesome, shocking, and traumatic. The video I saw on social media of Sterling shootings was horrifying. Mobile devices and digital media have proven to be important tools in documenting and combating police brutality. The images captured move people in the streets to seek justice and protest, and they sometimes move lawmakers to change policy to prevent police brutality, right? Front of house, social media's repackaging of Black Death, right? The repackaging of it. This is a commodity now. This is a commodity now. You understand? This is an income stream. This is an income stream. Think about it. The ambulance chasers and whatnot that are out here, the social media, the fake woke, the diet woke tribe and whatnot. You know, all of those. This is an income stream. When Black people are victims of police violence, their names, faces, and life stories are quickly reduced to symbols used as touchstones to talk about issues much larger than them by people at every point of the political spectrum. Their names are no longer their names, but serve as representations of the entire struggle for Black liberation from police violence, right? Yeah, don't ever do my name like that. Please, I beg of you. Don't ever put me in that pot with, don't do that. Don't do that. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, and countless others victims of police violence have had their names and faces reduced to representations of the system that resulted in their deaths. Blogger Danny refers to this as the posthumous iconography of murdered Black people. They do it in rap.
How, Sway?
They do it in rap, Sway.
You ain't got the answer, man. You ain't got the answer.
No, they do it in rap. We got used to that with Biggie and Pac, with all of the drill rappers. You know, Jadakiss told you dead rappers get better promotion. So it spilled over into our hashtag culture to whereas we'll cherry pick a few Black people and we'll completely strip them of who they are, right? Because I said before, if niggas really loved the melanated people who be out here getting killed, we would have got Ahmaud Arbery's album would have got put out. When George Floyd's last wishes were for Black people to get together and stop killing each other, that would have been honored instead of the quote unquote crime rate in Houston and other places where people domicile in Minnesota tripling after his death, right? They would have finished certain people's books. We would have seen more documentaries after these families get these millions of dollars. They would have edified their people. But these names become politicized. They become hashtags. They become politicized. They become talking points. Your whole criminal record is used against you. If you did something in the 80s and whatnot, they'll call you a bullet bag. They'll desecrate you in certain social media circles. It's crazy out here. The necromancy. It's crazy the way that they treat the dead. You got the drill rappers smoking on niggas. But it ain't no different when you get over on the Black Matter side. They smoking on niggas too. Smoking on Top 5. They smoking on the dead Pete. They smoking. Black Lives Matter is smoking on George Floyd. They smoking on him. They got houses in this. Yeah, they smoking that L. What are you talking about? They become a pack. They become a pack. Oh shit, let's get this hashtag. We're gonna run this shit up to 50 million. This is a pack. And they flip the pack multiple times. They flip it with the politicians. They flip it through entertainment. They flip it on the algorithms and get the YouTube checks and whatnot for impressions. They flip it on donations. They flip it on marches. Are you serious? Black cadavers is a bag. Black death is a bag. Black death is a Birkin, my nigga. You serious? That's a come up. They wouldn't even wink at a black man when he was alive. Most of them. They wouldn't even wink at that nigga. But now they capping. Now, we need justice. Blogger Danny refers to this as the posthumous iconography of murdered black people. The transformation of black victims of violence into pictures and symbols as opposed to what they were, human beings. The magnitude of what they endured is watered down so much that corporations become comfortable selling their images back to the communities that lost them. Come on. Hit that like button. Hit that like button, y'all. Let the algorithm know that you respect the truth, that the truth can prevail up in this thing. When you share the image of a victim of police violence as a means of communicating an anti-police ideology, when you wield that person's image to your advantage, you reduce that person to just that. Not a person, but a symbol, a tool, something easy to swallow and look at. Look, people are playing table tennis with dead people, right? They're playing table tennis with dead people. Oh, this is this ball right here. This is my dead. I'm gonna serve this nigga over to the white supremacy side, right? I'm gonna throw this ball over there, and this is gonna blow y'all up. This is gonna destroy your platform. This is gonna ruin your day. And then they'll throw you right back. They'll serve your ass right back, like Venus hitting with the backhand. They'll be like, fuck that nigga. Look at his criminal record. Boom. Then you'd be like, damn, all right, well, we got the police recordings. Boom. Then they'd be like, nah, fuck that. We got his rap sheet. Boom. Then they'd be like, nah, we got an indictment from the grand jury. Boom. Then they'd be like, look, we're gonna hit it back. We got an acquittal. We got an acquittal from the courts. Not guilty. Game over, niggas. You know what I mean? And these politicians and these ambulance chasers and whatnot, they just out here playing tabletop tennis with people's names, human beings. Human beings. In targeting this issue, it is important to consider the role of social media in desensitizing people to these images. Over the course of the past year, social media has served as a launchpad for a large amount of anti-racist protests and organizing efforts. It's an invaluable tool for everything from sharing crucial breaking news and information to holding space for collective progressing and healing. But despite its advantages, it is a large contributor to the issue of the posthumous iconography of Black people. The internet did not invent this issue, but it absolutely exacerbated it. Using aesthetically oriented platforms like Instagram for educational purposes culminated in the relegation of the images of murdered Black people to flowery children's cartoons, and allowed anything of genuine substance near the internet's genre of sardonic post-iconic humor is almost never a good thing. The ease with information could be shared online means that misinformation can spread like wildfire. Come on, talk black to me, man.
To this day. To this day.
And I've witnessed it do that. I've witnessed it firsthand. The internet is a space with the goal of communicating as much information in as little time as possible, and is used largely by young people as a means of cultivating an outward persona. The organization of something as serious as the fight for Black liberation over this medium is a recipe for disaster. It's hard to do any form of cultural troubleshooting when it comes to things as nebulous as social media. The internet my mom uses to earnestly quote tweet local politicians, and the internet my friends and I use to discuss the cancelization of TikTok pseudo celebrities can barely be considered the same place. This discussion is difficult and can be quickly become semantic, but it's still something that needs to be discussed because it has real harmful consequences. The detriment of this mindset can be seen clearly in comments made by popular leftist content creator Vosh. In discussing the death of Ma'Khia Bryant on a Twitter stream recently, he indicated that he thought the circumstances surrounding her shooting meant that she wouldn't be a good candidate to be the next George Floyd, going so far as to say people should wait 24 hours for another victim of police violence to be upset about. Bryant was a child, not an activist, but her death was understood not through the lens of empathy and compassion, but through her potential utility as the face of a movement. Damn. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi spoke from a similar place in comments she made following the announcement of the trial verdict in Derek Chauvin's case, in which she martyred Floyd and thanked him for sacrificing his life. Floyd did not give his life for the fight to end police brutality. He was an innocent man in the wrong place at the wrong time. When we reduce victims of police violence to symbols, we strip them of their humanity and fail to understand the gravity of the suffering they endured. We become desensitized to Black pain. The issue may not be unique to social media, but it is exponentially worsened by it. For murdered Black people to have endured what they have, their images should not be reduced to something so easily shared, so profitable, and so easy to look at. Like, you got YouTube channels who, the minute there's one, they'll put the video up and they'll exasperate for that YouTube check. They like, I gotta be the first one to get this shit out here. If somebody innocent, Black, unarmed, got killed, like, they're, that's a bag for them. That shit has become part of their bottom line, fam. That shit has become part of their bottom line. Scott, you're out of here. All right, so George Floyd, right? George Floyd's memorial statue in New York is defaced again, right? It's defaced again. They're treating man like a joke. You know what I'm talking about? They're treating Badman like a joke. You know? Very disrespectful. Okay? So this is my question, right? Because we was all outside with the George Floyd situation. We was dealing with that. Everybody was pledging that Black Lives Matter. Everybody was pledging to do better. Everybody was very reluctant to get out the house because we were enduring what was known as a lockdown, right? So how did this happen? In the same year, at the same time, on the same watch of all of these post George Floyd, the bigger picture niggas in the hood. How did that happen? How did gun violence happen when half of the year was on lockdown? My nigga, what the fuck?
To this day.
How, Sway?
To this day.
Steps back to go.
You ain't got the answers.
How? How? Wait.
How, Sway?
Take
How?
a few steps back to go.
You ain't.
How did that happen? I'm perplexed. I'm trying to figure this shit out. There was more violence in 2020 and that was the year of the lockdown. Remember, it started out with Pop Smoke getting killed. Started out with Pop Smoke getting killed. And they went crazy in New York. His murder was a catapult or catalyst to drill culture being exported around the world. Right? And then later on in 2020 with King Von, right? Getting murdered. How somehow, some way that activated a whole nother wave of killing. And people beginning to adopt the personas, right? And people beginning to adopt the personas, right? The pain of losing these artists and whatnot somehow, some way drove scores of young men into the streets, right? To personify these men. Interesting. So the New York Post just put out this video, right? Or this news, this front page story. And they said 21 kids killed in New York City street violence so far this year. This was on October the 1st, right? Remember, like I said, 21 Savage episode 2 is on the way. We're going to be doing that in the middle of October. This month is officially called Red October. All right. We're going to also be celebrating the Red Summer too. So a lot of this has to do with drill culture. A lot of this has to do with New York, because remember, the drill was really just in Brooklyn. It wasn't a borough-wide thing. When Pop Smoke and them was on a come up, it was Flatbush versus Ebbetsville, Brownsville, the Woos versus the Chos, right? Now it's every borough. They drilling on Staten Island. They drilling in Queens. They drilling in Brooklyn. They definitely drilling in the Bronx. They drilling in Harlem. These are 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20-year-olds, right? Somebody said that it's a lot of cops doing it. Well, if it's the cops doing it, they're utilizing social media and big data in order to do what they got to do. Imagine somebody being able to follow you the same way that when you're in a lift and whatnot, somebody when you're in a lift, you know the exact location of where the lift is at. Imagine if you had people who was able to follow signals on your phone just like that. Yeah, there's a lot of people that could pull up on you. You know what I'm talking about? Not to mention they put in the iPhone trackers underneath cars. They've been doing that in Atlanta. You know what I mean? The shooter's been told me about that. So, it could be that. But to be honest with you, it ain't a lot of mystery killings going on. You know what I mean? If you really follow the scorecard, niggas take credit for that shit. They out there taking, ain't too many unsolved. People is like, yeah, we know who did that. We know who did that. Yeah, Palantir Technologies. That's who works with, that's who a lot of the law enforcement are able to tap into, Palantir. And there's other quote unquote third party vendors that are selling all kind of technology because of surveillance capitalism. I don't know if y'all understand what this data thing is really about. But yeah, Palantir is one of the top vendors. Okay. So, New York has a lame duck mayor, of course, a very lame duck mayor. The police, the NYPD, basically backed down after the George Floyd thing. They allow a lot of things to happen. I feel like politically, this has a lot to do with the NYPD. Well, I mean, it's deeper than that, but radio is involved. Hot 97, 105. They're involved in pushing gang culture. Somebody needs to do something with them legally because they're exasperating the murders. And then on the left hand, they're helping the murders. They're helping the tension and whatnot. They're feeding the tension, and then on the right hand, they're like, "Yeah, we got to save the streets." Lisa Evans, and you know what I mean. They're acting like they care. It's called double consciousness, right? But at the end of the day, they're selling our people to these, to the funeral home. The age of attention economy fueled by social media addiction, right? There's an addiction taking place, not just regular engagement. There's an addiction. And the economy that we live in is called the attention economy. So as a result of the attention economy, these companies have become trillion-dollar entities, right? Each one of them in the trillions and whatnot. They're bigger than certain gross domestic products of certain countries, right? And in the attention economy, the product is your attention. Okay. They can monetize that, right? That might even be one of the most valuable assets when you think about it. So the attention economy is a relatively new term. It describes the supply and demand of a person's attention. Although the abstract concept of attention is not immediately palatable, it is not much different from any other resource in that our personal supply is finite. As a senior fellow at the Institute for Advanced Studies in Culture, Matthew Crawford says, attention is a resource. A person only has so much of it. Attention is part of the human experience, a vehicle that connects us to the outside world. Crawford dives into the phenomenon of attention with a searchlight analogy. The world is filled with stimuli, impressing upon our senses. As a countermeasure, we have a faculty that discriminates against this massive inflow of sensory information, our attention. It essentially pushes back, picking and focusing on one thing out of the sea of information. Our attention is an indiscriminate constant. A searchlight's beam is the same regardless of what it shines upon. It is unchanged by what it illuminates, he writes. That's to say, our attention is an immutable beam of intention, shining all the same on whatever captivates us. But it's only one light. Along with the rise of the digital age, content has become immediately available with this abundance a given. Ultimately, it is our lonely searchlight that limits us from searching for more information. The great bazaar of the attention economy. You're in a bazaar somewhere in Asia. The beggars and the peddlers notice that you're not from here, so you must have money. Scrambling, urbans and merchants vie for your attention. Miss, over here, very good price. You are pushed into bottles of incense, fake designer clothes, and dubious local spices. Although annoyed, you are not uninterested. You have taken to the streets on your own volition. You may have been en route somewhere, but stumbling upon cobblestones and canvas tents isn't necessarily an inconvenience hindrance. A tent draping rents and a thick lone puff of smoke swirls past your nostril in a miasmic tendril. They know you have options. They fight for the cash in your pocket by bombarding you with cheap flares and magic tricks. Others just yell, and others yell still, but with their lowest price. Eventually, you settle upon a certain tent and almost find what you're looking for. Then, because of its proximity, you go to the tents adjacent. Eventually, upon returning to the bazaar, you make a purchase because of the memory of the personable experience coupled with the low price impressed upon you. You make an active and passive decision based off of what you want and what you're interested in. You did not actively seek out the bazaar. No, this was a passive activity. The bazaar was just a stopover, but it left a mark. You did not forget about your experience, the smells, and the parlor tricks. So then later you actively decided to go back. For the consumer, this is not unlike the attention economy. There's no money, however, just our attention. With the rise of convenient and boundless information, we no longer read, we skim, writes Alex Iskold, managing director of Techstars in New York. Almost akin to a bazaar, repellent websites have users making a mad dash to the exit because consumers know what they have a ton of alternatives. Tech companies are desperately trying to find relevant content to put in front of users. When consumers have their interests piqued, they linger and oftentimes return. This increases the chances that a consumer will purchase something. However, paying with your attention is not a direct transaction. Advertisement success metrics are broadly based on how many clicks and eyeballs land on a promotion. Like any healthy economy, growth is stimulated by sales, or more broadly, the results of selling. In the attention economy, the selling can be undertaken in both an oblique and delayed manner. ISCO points out that a news feed and search engines both exchange convenience for attention. Companies then profit from the ads shown to the user. Ethics of the attention economy, the problem of social media addiction. Social media companies commonly design their platforms in a way that renders them addictive. Some governments have declared internet addiction a major public health concern, and the World Health Organization has characterized excessive internet use as a growing problem. Our article shows why scholars, policymakers, and the managers of social media companies should treat social media addiction as a serious moral problem. While the benefits of social media are not negligible, we argue that social media addiction raises unique ethical concerns not raised by other, more familiar addictive products, such as alcohol and cigarettes. In particular, we argue that addicting users to social media is impermissible because it unjustifiably harms users in a way that is both demeaning and objectionably exploitive. Importantly, the attention economy business model of social media companies strongly incentivizes them. With most businesses, the user of the product or service is the source of the revenue. But there is another kind of business, the so-called attention economy business, typically an ad-based business where the user of the product or service is not directly the source of the revenue. Instead, the user's attention is the product, and this product in turn is sold to advertisers or other buyers. Businesses that operate on an ad-based attention economy business model, of course, have long been around, including newspapers, radio, and network television. However, the most valuable and influential form of attention economy businesses are social media companies such as Facebook, Snap, and Twitter. Translation, right? So because these are ad-based companies, right? There's two business models that are at play when you come to these trillion-dollar empires: Google, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and things of that nature. It's ad-based. So there's Google AdSense, right? When you get paid, when your YouTube channel is monetized, that's because the ads that are showing on your videos and whatnot, you're being able to get a compensation, a very, 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 very small compensation at that. But the shit adds up, right? And for somebody who's getting 1 million hits on a video, or somebody who's getting 10 million hits, or somebody's getting 100 million hits, or 100,000, those checks or those videos could begin to add up. Let's say if you do 30 videos a month, right? So your attention, your eyeballs, like Liar Cohen said on the Breakfast Club interview, it's not in the streaming world and whatnot. The old model of the record industry was, we're going to put this record store in this well-to-do neighborhood because we know that the economics in this neighborhood are as such. There's middle-class families and whatnot. These young kids are able to afford $20 albums and CDs and things of that nature. But in this new economy of the digital streaming platforms, you don't need any money. You just need time and attention. They would rather solicit people who are considered to be in poverty because people in poverty got a lot of time, right? You could stay on the app all day. You could listen to YouTube songs all day. You could stream NBA YoungBoy to be the top artist all day because, you know what I mean? You have a lot of time on your hands. So data is the other income stream, is the other source of income that these behemoths are making trillions of dollars on, right? So you have ads, it's ad based, and it's database, right? So these are these are data mining platforms, right? And big data is bigger than big oil right now. Big data is bigger than big oil, okay? And that's not just me saying that. I'm not winging it. Big data has overtaken big oil, big beef, big tobacco. It's the bigger, it's you know, it's bigger than big tech. So it might not be bigger than big tech, but you know what I'm getting at. A significant amount of attention has been devoted to the untoward ways social media has been used, including, for example, to bully, to radicalize individuals sympathetic to terrorist causes, to exert undue influence on geopolitical events, such as the 2016 U.S. elections, to generate mass outrage, to pressure an employer into firing an employee, and to polarize social groups. There are important issues, but they all involve using social media to pursue wrongful ends, right? Damn, this is another clip that I wanted to show you, but they're gonna clip me if I play this. Let's do this. I'm gonna put my Patreon up there, and y'all sign up to the Patreon. You know what I'm talking about? Y'all sign up to the Patreon, and we'll be able to upload videos where we'll be able to play shit like this and it won't get tagged and whatnot. We might have to either go through Zoom. I'm gonna do my research when I get off of this right here, but I'll figure it out and we'll be able to do some things, but we just got to do a little bit of wiggling. We got to wiggle and move. You understand me? So this video, she's talking about surveillance capitalism, right? What mass data does, when they collect mass data, what they're doing is they're creating models, right? These models are patterns of human behavior, right? How long do you stay on the site? What color do you prefer? What days do you go shopping the most? What is your browsing behavior like, right? So what it creates is a behavioral surplus, okay? And what they realized at some point in time, because they were collecting all of this data in these social media platforms, but they were calling it junk data, right? But they realized that inside of these streams of data that they had rich predictive behavior, right? They were able to analyze terabyte. I'm talking about beyond terabytes, you know, fucking terabytes of info, and they were able to begin to see that there was rich streams of data in this otherwise data that they were throwing away or throwing to the side, right? So it was even more data than what they needed to that they were requiring for ad companies to help with their products and whatnot. This was more data than what was required. So they went and took this extra data and they monetized it, and they became a whole industry, a cottage industry off of this extra data, right? So this data was helping them to predict the preferences of specific groups and niches and whatnot. This is where you have the predictive quote unquote programming, and this is where you have predictive economies and whatnot, right? And they auction these predictions to their business partners who use that information to their advantage, right? They were calling the extra data waste exhaust and data exhaust. All right. So one of the examples of Facebook utilizing a whole psyops was the Facebook massive scale contagion experiment. You could research that. All right. The Facebook massive scale contagion experiment. And what they were doing, where they were experimenting with subliminal cues in their pages, and they were influencing on offline behaviors and emotions. They saw that they were able to influence offline behaviors and emotion, meaning that when you get off of the app, when you get off of social media, when you unplug and put your phone down, they were still able to affect you emotionally. They were still able to affect your behaviors to have you do shit based off of the subliminal cues that they were putting in their pages and whatnot. And there's thorough research on this. This is called a Facebook massive scale contagion experiment, right? They were utilizing word manipulation, language manipulation, and they came to the conclusion that they now can manipulate subliminal cues in online context to change real world behavior or real world emotions. And they realize that they can exercise this power and these methods while bypassing user awareness, meaning that they could get over and get it past you. Now, another example of something that's not conspiracy theory, that's known, that is a public fact, it's a known fact, is that Google is the first pioneer of surveillance capitalism. They are the pioneers, meaning that they are the fathers of it. Currently, we're having a conversation about Facebook. They're having their day in the court of public opinion. But when you scale it back, Google, who owns YouTube, is the father of surveillance capitalism. This is their home. This is what they brought to the table. If any, I don't know if the public is aware of it, but Pokemon Go was incubated and invented by a fella by the name of John Hanke inside of Google for years, right? John Hanke also invented something called Google's Keyhole, which was a CIA asset called Google Keyhole that invested and eventually became, it was bought by Google and it was eventually became Google Earth. All right. Google Earth was originally Google Keyhole, and that's a CIA product right there. That's something that the CIA developed, right? So Google augmented reality, right, was brought to the market. Google's augmented reality was brought to the market as Pokemon Go, right, by a company that they created out of thin air called Niantic Labs, right? Google is behind Pokemon Go. That is their game. But the thing about Pokemon Go that a lot of people did not know is that there was a game on top of a game. So the game that you're playing, Pokemon, where people were going to Starbucks, to McDonald's, people were chasing Pokemon and going into establishments. What they did not know was Google was working out business deals with other companies through their quote unquote company that they created called Niantic Labs. And what they were doing was they were selling the real world equivalent to what they have pay per click, right? In the cyberspace, on social media and whatnot. In that world, on the online world, the monetization model is called pay per clicks. But in the real world, the equivalent of a click through is called footfall, meaning that they have they've created a way to get you to fail your feet, or to take your feet and to fall it into an establishment, right? So that's what Pokemon Go was able to do. They had people, so McDonald's was paying Google to put their location in Pokemon Go. So then Pokemon Go will put the location of McDonald's as the place for people to go to get a Pokemon. So that's the foot traffic is going into McDonald's. That's called a footfall. That's like a click right there. So now when they're inside of the store, you have a percentage of them that's going to go ahead and buy something from McDonald's or Subways or wherever else they were going with the Pokemon Go. So vendors are buying something called lure models, right? Lure models. So let's just say that I'm selling, I'm somebody that wants to sell weights or something, or gym equipment. The lure model that I will work out is that I say, all right, so if I'm gonna buy a storefront that's a gym, or I'm gonna buy space inside of a gym and whatnot to put my products. So when you come in there with the Pokemon Go game and whatnot, you're going to be I'm going to upsell you this product inside of this quote unquote lore model, right? So this was one of their public, this is one of this is a project that not everybody, but a lot of people know about and whatnot. They were exposed about this, and it was shown that this is something that they're utilizing, right? So this is a new economy. It's called economies of action, right? And economies of action, you're getting real-time results. You know what I'm talking about? And you're able to study, you're able to engineer behavior, right? And you're also able to fulfill other commercial ends while you're having a great time. So they're masking it in having a great time. You're doing a scavenger hunt. You're out with your homies. You know what I mean? You're in an augmented reality. You know, you're having a great time. You're not realizing what's really taking place, that there's a game on top of a game. There's a shadow game taking place while you're out here playing what you thought was one game. There's a whole nother game on top of that game. And you are the game. You know what I'm talking about? You become the game. You become the game. Okay. You'll be saturated by convenience. You'll be overly entertained. All right. Spatial reality, virtual reality, augmented reality. Look out for that. That's coming in the near future. They are going to take full advantage of this technology, especially with the Oculus Rift, with the Google glasses, with the halogens, all of these things, spatial technology, virtual reality, augmented reality. That will be rolled out within the next 2 to 3 years. So look out for that, because like I said, they already tried it out with Pokemon Go, and it was a huge success. And they're developing more games to be like that. All right. And you know, shit, it's not a bad thing. It's just tech, you know, it is what it is. Like, as a developer, developers that are out there listening to this, you might want to get ahead of the wave. You might want to get ahead of the curve. You might want to develop something that's going to be beneficial to you. Okay. So another form of surveillance technology is when the Google Nest, the security system, was found to have microphones built into it. That's not part of Google Nest's quote unquote. That's not part of the technology, right? The microphone had nothing to do with the functionality of a security system. But what were they doing? They were spying on conversations. They were spying over what you were listening to on TV. They were spying over people coming over to your house. One of the caveat, what they see as data gold is voices. All right. To have your voice in your conversation, that's gold, along with your quote unquote images and your pictures and whatnot. But to have voice, that's very gold. Okay. That's very gold. So the privacy policies that nobody reads is where you're giving away your consent to the third parties, and you're giving your data away to the third parties, to whereas you can't take them to court, you can't fight them. You know, they might even develop what is known as digital twins. You know what I mean? You might have a doppelganger out there somewhere, but they've created so much you know, they got that shit Trump tight. You know what I mean? You need a whole team of lawyers in order to get around certain things that you have voluntarily signed off. Signed off. Okay. So the surveillance dividend is what venture capitalists and investors in Silicon Valley started investing in circa 2003 and onward, right? So they figured, you know, we got all of these apps that are coming out, but you know, why will we as venture capitalists just go ahead and invest in an app that's not collecting data, right? So you had this whole slew of apps that were committed to basically surveillance, right? The surveillance dividend. So the surveillance dividend is all of these unicorns and all of these apps and all of these startups and whatnot that have the quote unquote on the surface, they have whatever functionalities that they serve, but they're all collecting data. Okay. They're all collecting data and feeding it to third parties and whatnot. They're all part of surveillance dividend. So as a result of many startups and people's endeavors not getting funded, the majority of the industry shifted. So now inside of that Silicon Valley, you know, damn near all of these people are into that. Okay. And your mobile phone is the gateway to surveillance surplus. Your mobile phone, of course, it's the gateway. You know, this what they utilize. So when we see a movie, right, or when we see a show like Squid Games, you don't have to ask yourself, why is this the quote unquote one of the biggest releases in Netflix history? You don't have to ask yourself why our people or people around the world would be infatuated in a game where you are fighting. It's a dystopian type of reality. It's not even a dystopian reality. It's in regular reality. But in this game, you're playing for billions of dollars, but you'll lose your life if you lose the game. You understand? You'll lose your life if you lose the game. Hold on a minute. Give me 1 second. You lose your life if you lose the game. Right? You say, what's the hype? I mean, the way they put this shit together, bro. It's a good. They just put it together. They put it to, if I'm good. I'm big on storylines. I'm big on storylines. I'm big on cinematics. It's something that is engaging, right? Especially if you're into shit like this, it's engaging. Okay, that it is, right? But as a people who are desensitized, as a people who are desensitized, movies like this don't really do, it's almost to the point where, you know, we need this shit. You know what I mean? Like, this feeds us, you know? This feeds us. We're not scared of seeing people die anymore. We've seen enough of that. Squid Game, Eyes biggest Netflix series title, shocking the streamer. We didn't see it coming. Netflix chief content officer expressed surprise at Vox Media's Code conference this week when revealing the Korean survival drama Squid Game is becoming such a blockbuster for the streaming giant that it could soon dethrone Bridgerton as the biggest Netflix series of all time. The first season of Shonda Rhimes' Regency romance stands atop Netflix list of most popular series by household, 82 million, and most popular series by hours spent viewing, 625 million. As always, it is important to note that streamer counts 2 minutes of streaming as a view, as reported by Variety. So it's on pace to knock Bridgerton off the quote unquote throne for being the most viewed game on Netflix history. Squid Games comes from writer director Hwang Dong-hyuk, whose credits include the feature films The Fortress, Granny, and Silence. The film riffs on a reality television and telling the story of a group of contestants who agreed to participate in a mysterious survival game with a grand prize total of nearly 40 million. The game includes hundreds of contestants who play traditional children games with deadly twists. Lee Jong-jae, Park Ha-sol, and Woo Hing-hong star. All 9 episodes of the show's first season are now streaming on globally on Netflix, right? In review for The Guardian, writer Henry Wong said the show's closest comparison is another Southern Korean drama, 2019 Oscar-winning zeitgeist-capturing Parasite, where the country's class divides led to a bloody conclusion. Wong adds, masterful cliffhangers give the series a requisite binge-worthy appeal, and the set pieces are hideously inventive, but the show's eclectic cast, it keeps the viewers watching, right? So I definitely I suggest that, I'm like, yo, if you have the opportunity to watch it, fuck it, watch it. Like, if you're into shit like that, check it out. It ain't like you ain't seen nothing like it before, you know. Um, but it's very interesting. It shows that the elites, right, are basically behind, you know, utilizing people who are in debt to basically kill themselves off. Similar to Hunger Games, right? Similar to what you saw in Me Too, where those group of Europeans who could be seen as elites or people of a certain type of social class and whatnot, they were utilizing, they were coming together and they were utilizing you know, the less fortunate amongst them, and they were utilizing them as a showpiece, right? In the Django movie with the Mandingo wrestling, while they was sitting down eating Skittles and whatnot, and two slaves were beating themselves to death. That was their amusement. These elites at the record label and whatnot that are watching our children die in the streets and whatnot. Every other day they wake up, one rapper is beheaded, the other one is shot up in his car, another one is carjacked, another one's mama house got shot up, grandmama's house got shot up. You know what I mean? They shot him with his pants around his ankles. You know, that's their enjoyment. That's their amusement. You understand? That's their Squid Game. You know, you got labels signing people up. They got beef with each other, and they just sit back and they watch them on social media. That's their Squid Game. They make bets against them. They take insurance policies out against them. You know what I'm talking about? They have predictive markets and whatnot where they can predict, you know, what city is the next rapper going to die from. You know what I'm talking about? The same way that you have these elites, you have people in the jail system, in the prison complex industry and whatnot. On Rikers Island, they had the inmates fighting and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? They had a fight club. You know, this is what you see. This is the conditioning. This easily could be a movie, or this easily could, you know, this could be a situation of the people without the Jabberwocky versus the people with the Jabberwocky. You know, I still see forms of indoctrination, but the fact that the world, not just America, but the world, you know, they're flocking to stories like this of this type of situation, survival dramas, right? This is not the only one. It don't just stop there. There's a whole bunch of movies like this. There's a whole bunch of movies like this, right? Be prepared to see Korean films beginning to flood the streaming apps, and not just Netflix, because you know they're in stark competition with these other quote unquote platforms: Hulu, Amazon, Disney Plus. You're going to see an influx of foreign films, especially those coming out of Asia and whatnot, because of their quote unquote filmmaking abilities. So there's a movie called Ari Mine. Just a few months ago, the Japanese series arrived on a streaming site, following 11 high school classmates who wake up in a large dining room and are forced to remain seated at a huge table. Then they began to disappear one by one. The Wilds. The Wilds is the story of several teenage girls isolated on a deserted island after a mysterious plane crash, who are unaware that they're part of something much more sinister than simply being maroon survivors. Panic. After finishing high school, a group of young people in a small Texas town undergo some deadly challenges to get $50,000 that will allow them to leave the place and prosper far away. Black Mirror, of course, we're familiar with that. 3%, where issues such as power, class, or origin intersect, a group of 20-year-olds have one opportunity to compete: the process, which marks the difference between poverty or survival, right? So it's no coincidence that, you know, the economy is on the brinks, society is wild shaky. There's a lot of shit going on these days. You dig what I'm saying? And coincidentally, they have all of these shows on these streaming platforms that are somewhat indoctrinating and desensitizing people. You know, of course, a lot of us are more familiar with the Purge series, where they give their society 24 hours to kill at will, right? To purge, to get shit off of their chests, to handle their quote unquote beefs and whatnot. You know what I mean? To go drill a few times, to spin the block. You feel me? The Walking Dead. Yeah, of course. The Walking Dead, of that would be the progenitor of that. The Purge has created a clear brand of utter terror and a successful saga that has even reached television. Composed of 2 seasons, the series returns us to the universe of The Purge around a handful of characters under constant threat. So, with the society being under this fear paradigm, right? Living uneasy, there's a war going on outside. You know what I mean? There's an invisible enemy. There's always the constant threat, right? There's always this constant threat. And then on top of that, you have multiple other threats. So I would highly, it would be no surprise that, you know, movies and shows and things of that nature would definitely be uh highly streamed, sought after. Let me play this clip. This is from our lecture that we just did, our workshop entitled Thrive and Strive, fourth quarter, the Mansa Freedom Plan. This is just a small clip. I'm going to play this. This is about, I'm gonna play about 5 minutes of it, then I'm gonna clip it. But this is definitely for your viewing pleasure. If anybody wants to tap in, I'll leave the email and the Cash App that you could do that on. Let's play it and see if you can hear it. Give me 1 second. What it means for the passion economy. Clayton Christensen's writing has been hugely influential on my thinking. So when Cliff Maxwell, Christensen's former, let me know if y'all can hear. Student at HBS, reached out to discuss my work on the passion economy, I jumped at the chance. The process of disruption has overthrown many existing market lead. The process of disruption has overthrown many existing market leaders and upturned established industries. No sound? Okay. Fuck it though. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna fight it. If it's no sound, then I'm not gonna fight it. We did good. You know what I'm talking about? We did good. We got through some information. You know, we got through some information, and I was very pleased with the information that we got through with. You know, like I said, at this point in time, we need the engineers, the coders, the ones amongst us to do their due diligence. We see what's going on with social media. We don't want to be these frogs boiling in water for too long, right? We have to establish our own. We have to build our own platforms. We have to reverse engineer this stuff. It can't be that hard. It really can't. It really can't. You know what I'm talking about? It really can't. You know, or we just gonna be sitting back, being surveilled, having our data sold. You know what I mean? All kind of crazy shit. And I know we ain't with that. I know we not built for that. Like this ain't it. You know what I mean? So this is just an ends to a means. So, like I said, let me put this up there for anybody that wants to follow us down the path that we're taking, which will not be on this app forever. We won't always be here, unfortunately. We'll be in better places where we'll be able to have better conversations, longer conversations, conversations that would be more quote unquote, you know, freer. You know what I mean? Because I'm still kind of like I can't say what I want to say. Make sure y'all hit that like button. I know that much. Yeah, I touched on the WhatsApp and the IG shutdown earlier. We did that on the first video. Yeah, I'm gonna check that app by Billy Carson. You know what I mean? I'm gonna check that app. But the same way that we got Fang, you know, we need our own level of Fang. We don't need one app. We don't just need one app. You know what I'm saying? We need a family of apps, right? We need a family of apps. The way I just showed you the reports, and there's other information that's leaking out and whatnot. The way that these companies have marginalized the truth, the way that they feed us content, the way that they introduce us to people who we should be, who we should have been introduced to years ago or months ago. You know, the way that they hold back certain people from other people, the way they marginalize people and put them in an echo chamber or just a certain type of group, to whereas they become part of group think. They become indoctrinated. They think that they live in a bubble and whatnot. You feel what I'm saying? And sometimes these bubbles are they're not they're not the best type of bubbles for them. These bubbles don't allow you to grow. These echo chambers don't challenge you. So I ain't gonna talk your heads off. This was a very good show. You know, I appreciated every single person in the building, all 800 of you. Salute everybody in the building. Thank you for pulling up for this backup show after they clipped the first one and whatnot. That means a lot to me. You know what I'm talking about? We will be back for Third Eye Thursday, inshallah. We will be back. And we're not just gonna talk, we're gonna bring solutions. You know what I mean? I like to ask questions because, you know, I want y'all to feel like y'all are part of this process. But, you know, by all means, we are solution based. We working on our shit, you know what I mean? And you know, if you got information that you want to share it with us. If you're out there, if you're one of those people who I was talking to and you're out there, my ninja, don't be shy. This ain't the time for that. You know what I'm talking about? Do not be shy. You know what I'm saying? Everybody that hit up the Cash App real quick, give y'all a shout out. All right. Shout out to Camille, shout out to Karain, shout out to GOR, shout out to Cedric. You feel me? Yeah, ain't too much more than that. You feel me? But I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Salute to y'all. You dig? And salute to anybody else that's gonna leave a tip and drop something on that. You know, like I said before, this is not a monetized channel. You know what I mean? We don't sit at the table with YouTube and break bread with them. You know what I'm talking about? The support that we get is directly from the family. So, you know, definitely keep the support coming, and I appreciate y'all. Yeah, so I'm out. All right. Peace, love and light. Yeah, stay dangerous, man. We'll see you on Thursday. Peace.